Welcome back, my beloved fellow man, to Diverging Humanity. More specifically, Diverged Humanity, because we are momentarily at their 2025 and not 1991. Now don't be shy now, you hear. Come join in. And we are here to get a rough preview to the world we ourselves can create through our world constitution, Purocracy, and mutually assured construction. This Diverged Humanity, anno 2025, has solved all refugee problems, from Mexico to Syria, Africa, and everywhere else, without aggression. Now, you are probably still wondering more specifically how. To nurture, connect, and respect our world and ourselves as humanity is of course most general, though these three key principles function on every level of society, including countries. Thus, the peoples from these problematic countries are fully capable in nurturing their countries by connecting with all the societal expertise and active common good ideas, thus solving their internal problems competently and honestly, and thereby having fully respected themselves, just as any other country. Fascism can no longer emerge in this world, as we as peoples have expert-level control over the societal pillars, which are legislation, execution, judiciary, and media. Fascism namely requires abusing these excellent ideas, which in turn requires lack of collective control capability. Now, what will be a lack of collective control capability, then you ask? Simple. The lack of ability to present ourselves as human individuals, in our own human needs when necessary, with relevant expert guidance, a self-responsibility clause, idea respecting mechanisms, our rule over our own world as humanity, and a worldwide location of converging the former mentioned. This responsible rule of humanity through responsibility-based expert-guided self-representation is Purocracy in a nutshell. The governance system consists out of three philosophical theories, namely stakeholder management theory, universal education theory, and fundamentally universal governance theory. Together with the world constitution and mutually assured construction, is society and governance within systemically enclosed, allowing for us to systemically minimize corruption and incompetence, while systemically maximizing honesty and competence, and further, fill in society with excellent ideas, in full respect to our human needs and us as peoples. In this message, will we cover universal governance theory, the philosophical theory which covers principles universal, general, and fundamental to excellent governance. In other words, fully human need fitting to everyone governance, and reliably. Being able to establish, maintain, and further grow beautiful cities and towns with excellent infrastructures, having excellent programs which support all our human needs, including our social needs. Problems such as incels, women hatred, men hatred, and political polarization are here systemically minimized. This world is healthy and peaceful of mind, and so will go our excellent world of tomorrow as well. It is that simple. Now, let's go back to UN think tank about the excellent world of tomorrow, 1991, and begin about universal governance theory.
You know what is weird to me?
What?
We have been dropping in and out here with your interdimensional time machine, but no one ever said anything about it?
Oh yeah, about that. You want to know the secret?
Do I really want to know?
Gave them all one of these before you came along. Weather's original. Candy from the gods. Now they are quiet as mouses.
Cool. Can I have one?
Of course. Last one, though. Unto the topic at hand. Universal Governance Theory, UGT in short. To quote the UN think tank itself on it, the principles universal, general, and fundamental in human governance of our human world. They meant, of course, themselves, but apply equally to us as well, of which they determined to be 7 principles, meaningfully. Namely, rule by humanity, self-presentation, expert guidance, self-responsibility, respect for ideas, true leadership, and one interconnected location. These 7 principles put the 3 key terms of mutually assured construction, nurture, connect, and respect, further into practice. To begin with Principle 1, rule by humanity. We have established how society is the teamwork, the interdependence, which supports us humanity, us human beings, and our human needs. Thus our rule of law, 4 pillars of society, and world constitution as well, of which the last one still does not exist anno 2025, though that will change when you will become aware of Message 5's content. This first principle of UGT is where the systemic maximization of honesty and competence and the systemic minimization of corruption and incompetence comes into practice to assure excellent nurturing of everyone's human needs, short-term and long-term. And to assure excellent life quality and quantity to everyone needs we humanity be collectively empowered. Rule by humanity. We are not talking here about rule by humanity as merely words on paper, but humanity actually empowered in governance, as humanity. Thus, in principle, as population numbers are at present, 8.1 billion of us human beings, directly as adults, indirectly as children or mentally incapable, through care-providing adults. Homo sapiens over its own world. That's how we, in the most fundamental, general, and universal terms, stabilize our world as society to nurture all our human needs excellently. Do you perhaps know why collective empowerment as humanity is important to minimize corruption and incompetence while maximize honesty and competence?
I am only 22 and never got anything like this in school properly. So, no.
It's simple. Let's grab the 4 pillars here, beginning with the media. The media exists to inform the collective on general worldly matters, such as an economic crisis, as the 2008 crisis, for example, or the COVID-19 crisis, but also more specific matters to local situations, such as, for example, volcanic lava slides in Hawaii. As you understand, do you want these media reports to be accurate to the topic at hand, free from bias, such as political left-right filtering, so that you are aware how the situation actually is? When the collective as collective controls the rules and financial security of journalists, then the media accurately provides coverage as is. However, when the media is not controlled by the collective as collective, but by a few financially rich people amongst the collective, for example, then the accuracy and topics of media is highly dependent on the personal integrity of those few controlling. If they have the best interest for collective and society as whole, then there is no problem. If they only have their own interest unreasonably in mind at the cost of the rest's awareness, then there are major problems. And the thing is, you can never tell by someone's words or being written on their foreheads on their true intentions. They can say they have the media integrity in mind, while deciding completely otherwise. Full collective empowerment over the media ensures collective empowering media. The same goes for the legislative pillar, where laws are made. For example, you, as everyone else, wants laws for food safety, being able to eat food which is safe for us human beings to consume, not containing any health-deteriorating chemicals. When laws are created based on collective control, once again as collective, then laws will benefit the health of the collective. When they are based on the donations of a few financially rich, then they are again dependent on the integrity of those few. And as history has demonstrated way too many times, is that integrity not reliably present? You probably see the pattern here. If the collective is in actual control over the pillars of society, then the collective in its entirety benefits from them. If only a few, then those benefit unreasonably, to a degree which deteriorates society and the human needs of the rest. And on the latter, its benefit is not firm either. We are namely a social species, enjoying social cohesion amongst each other, such as healthy friends and communal relationships. When you have an oligarchy, which is perverted empowerment of a few, as here mentioned, then it creates social walls amongst each other, creating more feeling of social isolation. Such practices also diminishes healthy spirituality and morality, which depletes someone internally. True collective empowerment is necessary for a truly healthy collective and society, bringing us to Principle 2, self-presentation. We have roughly established the importance of collective empowerment to the full nurturing of the entire collective's human needs, from the perspective of the four societal pillars, but not yet as why in principle, as actual collective, which concerns this second principle. We have currently representative democracy, where we elect a relative small group of other human beings in our countries, states, cities, etc., to represent the rest of us in the laws which affect our human needs. Reason for this arrangement has to do with geological distancing of population. We do not all live at the same location, of course. Then there is the reason for lack of assembly capacity. When officially discussing a topic of governance, then it is best to do so at a singular location. Physically, would such a location require to house millions in larger countries, which is simply not realistic. Following is there the requirement of education. Decision-making in governance is not responsible, unless someone understands the ins and outs of a decision topic and consequences of decision. During our entire course as humanity, has the capacity to educate every interested human being on a governance topic been highly limited. Even if former three reasons were fully considered to be solved, then the decision-making process for any large population would take ages to go through. However, as you, me, and every other critical thinking one is aware, is this election of a few amongst us not reliable in the servicing of our human needs collectively? We only have to look at the current US to understand its unreliable servicing with their lack of universal health care. Every developed country has universal health care in one form or another. Not the US, however, even though nearly 2/3 of the population want universal health care.
Why though?
Because powerful, influential groups such as the American Hospital Association, with financial incentives, have more influence in the decision-making regarding the US healthcare system than the people themselves. Bribing and blackmailing politicians just to increase profit margins of hospitals, insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies, etc., at the cost of human health, costing even human lives. This neglect to tens of millions of US citizens' human needs and healthcare for the sake of higher financial returns demonstrates the deterioration in quality of US governance and US society overall. Had the words of the US Constitution, "We the people," be actually filled with "the people" in US governance, then universal healthcare would already be a reality in the US. It's other reason why it does not exist. Government overreach not be relevant then either, as the government would then precisely function to the collective rule of the people, as actual people. This principled inclusion of yourself and your care-receiving loved ones in the governance which affects your own or their quality and quality of life, of course applies to every human being, and therefore applies to all of us as peoples as well, including economic and political fleeing peoples such as Syrians, Nigerians, and Mexicans. Had these fleeing peoples being able to present themselves in governance over their own nation in the matters which affected their own and care-receiving loved ones' quality and quantity of life, responsibly along with expert guidance, respect for ideas, and true leadership, then their societies would not have been caught in self-destructive spirals, but rather self-constructive. Fleeing would not even have come to these people's minds, let alone put into action, and everyone would have been better off. And therefore, the immigration problems in the US, Europe, or potentially anywhere else would not have happened. No side benefits from not being able to present themselves. Corruption cannot take hold when you, as everyone else, is able to present themselves directly. You simply cannot bribe or blackmail millions of people. That can only happen individually or in small groups. Now, this form of governance would be, from a dusty ancient perspective, be direct democracy. But we are not talking here about direct democracy now, do we?
No?
No. We are talking here about purocracy. Because direct democracy has the issues of the aforementioned reasons: distance, assembly, education, and time, which will all be solved through the next principles. Starting with Principle 3, expert guidance. The ability to present ourselves in governance matters which affect our own or loved ones' human needs systemically maximizes the honest amount of true human voices legitimately included, not just mere statistical samples in some polls, but actual populations when collectively deemed necessary by the actually affected collective. And not just some referendum either. but the actual decision by the human individuals involved alleviates us from the root cause problem of corruption, but does not alleviate us from the root cause problem of incompetence. This problem, however, can be solved by principally connecting expertise to ourselves when we feel inclined to present ourselves in governance matters related to ourselves. In universal healthcare, for example, and there are plenty of experts amongst us regarding healthcare to provide excellent quality of information and ideas. In every field related to governance, housing, food, safety, defense, mental health, etc., our entire human needs hierarchy. All we need to do is to connect meaningfully. Then the question becomes, how do we meaningfully connect ourselves, principally with expertise in governance? Introducing the guidance part in expert guidance with reasonable governance asymmetry.
So, what is reasonable governance asymmetry?
Simple. It is this, also called horizontal governance asymmetry. It is the excellent degree of competence experts have, as mentioned in the previous message, and the excellent ideas they can therefore bring along with. They therefore have a better natural sense of direction related to that expertise than non-experts, and do best to provide guidance to non-experts along with their own self-presentation. Though important to note, non-experts cannot be generalized into one group. There will be some amongst non-experts who are nearing expert levels of competence, but are just not yet recognized amongst true experts as experts. Then there will be students related to an expertise, followed by intermediates, and then laymen. This categorization is not exact. Just to make you aware, just because someone is not an expert does not mean someone is completely ignorant. Now, first and foremost in this connected guidance is important for non-experts to understand the choice and ideas experts make from their own presentation related to a governance topic. Let's pick the example here of healthcare. We have entire communities of experts related to healthcare with plenty of excellent ideas roaming our world. But experts do not always agree on which ones are best. Let's say abstractly they come up with 4 general ideas for healthcare. The first general idea among healthcare experts in this fictional example is no universal healthcare, with provided such and such arguments, accounting for 10% amongst the total community. Then next, there is 40% for universal healthcare, with this and that configuration. C also with 25%, but with another configuration. And 25% for yes with D, but slightly different to the two former. Remember, these are the options the experts choose from their own self-presentation. They themselves may not always need that type of healthcare, but it will affect their expertise, the world they live in and share with their fellow man. Of course, they therefore want the best for the ones who are affected, as it then indirectly affects them. Along with the provision of these ideas to interested non-experts, do they reasonably provide relevant education material along with for non-experts to educate themselves on the governance topic? Any contextual information and any information on the ideas, including any consequences to society in short-term and long-term, experts deem important. Or in other words, the whys, hows, whats, wheres, whens, and whos of them. The interested non-experts educate themselves on the provided material by the topic experts, and thereby leveling the governance asymmetry between experts and non-experts towards symmetry about the related governance topic, and decide from their own perspective what they reasonably deem best for themselves and their care-receiving loved ones. This arrangement of topic-guided self-presentation is best connected to moderating expertise as well. With moderating expertise meaning, for example, financial expertise to include fiscal responsibility, and economic expertise for economic responsibility. Further is best included supportive expertise. Any expertise related in the support of educating non-experts as well as communication experts to provide any meaningful mediation in the communication between expertises and interested non-experts. The dynamic collaboration between these 4 groups eventually leads to excellent universal healthcare. Accurate to the human needs of those involved, scientifically grounded, fiscally and economically responsible. This human and society respecting dynamic between experts and interested non-experts is true interdependence, true teamwork, providing meaning and purpose along with, and applies to everything regarding society, including the content of the World Constitution, with the Declaration of World Peace and World Prosperity, and from there, the decisions which truly fill that excellent humanity declared vision in. This was Principle 3, expert guidance in general terms. Now let's continue with Principle 4, self-responsibility. We, from our expertise, can provide all the guidance and support non-experts need to make a competent decision from their self-presentation and governance matters which affect their own human need. But the burden of respecting that guidance and support always remains with the to become competent individual. If someone is willing to present themselves in the governance topic which affects their or their care-receiving loved ones and educate themselves towards competence, excellent. If someone wants to decide but is not willing to respect the offered expert education by educating themselves on the topic at hand, then unacceptable. Reason is simple. When we decide from ignorance or low to no level of competence, then our decision's quality is of low to none, which can eventually lead to inaccurate governance, affecting the overall decision quality of the entire group, and us, humanity overall, consequentially leading to dissatisfaction, therefore requiring adjustment, and thereby will become a longer, costlier process, leading to friction amongst us. You get my meaning. In the establishment, maintenance, and further growth of our excellent world of tomorrow is the systemic assurance of self-responsibility and governance decision-making mandatory. In other words, in the protection of our own human needs, quality and quantity, is testing of others before respecting decision-making authority, not just our right, but our duty, as we reasonably may expect from others. And that goes to everyone, including highly educated people. An expert in computer science, for example, will have to receive guidance from experts in healthcare or climate change, educate themselves, and be tested for quality assurance, as the others in potential computer science-related governance topics. When someone has passed the expert-provided testing material, thereby demonstrating competence to decide responsibly, then of course someone has the right to present themselves in the governance decision-making process. When someone, however, does not pass testing, then no, until someone does. Last dimension for this principle. You will become aware. We can even provide education on self-responsibility, learning, etc. at universal education theory. For though an excellent bar of competence is required for our excellent world, can we provide everything to everyone across our entire world in order to meet that high bar? And testing, of course, brings a massive boost to our self-respect and respect for others as well, when we know they are tested too. All right, that is it for Principle 4. Now into Principle 5, respect for ideas. As mentioned in the introduction, our ideas, mental paths we take as individuals and as collectives, all the way upward to the ideas of excellent world peace and excellent world prosperity regarding us, humanity. Why respect for ideas in governance, though? And what does that mean? Short answer? To respect ideas in governance is to be able to guide ideas towards excellent realization in society upon emergence of an idea, and allows us to evaluate the potential quality of an idea and to connect them excellent with other ideas already in society. It further allows us to better respect the ideator, him or herself. Let's take the example here of the internet, the World Wide Web, and artificial intelligence and social media through them. First, you have to know the internet exists from before the 1990s already, and was created for secure and reliable government research and military communication and information sharing purposes. Based on that idea came in the World Wide Web in 1989, where everyone connected to the internet could communicate and share information with one another through it. Artificial intelligence to mimic human intelligence in helping solving problems we human beings have. Social media was created to share more personal information with family members and friends. On their own, are all of these ideas excellent, allowing the improvement of all our human needs, but their realization into the reality of society determines their degree of service to our human needs. If excellent, then that means their realization are fully grounded in our human sciences and in line with the decided upon services to our human needs from the involved, competent collective amongst us humanity, and reliably so. Or, in other words, with full honesty and competence is an excellent idea, excellent realized. And when realized with corruption and incompetence, then these ideas, or excellent ideas in general, are not excellent to us humanity and our human needs. Simple. As we have covered before. They clearly are not in excellent state, however. The current realized version of our World Wide Web and Internet has become a mixed bag. On one hand, has it become highly purposeful in sharing scientific data across our world? On the other hand, has it become a worldwide infrastructure for hackers and cyber warfare amongst governments? AI has helped in solving problems related to medical research, allowing scientists to simplify complex data sets to better understand patterns in that data. But then there is AI in the form of AI slop, which now plagues social media, pushing low-quality content in high quantities. Social media on one side allows for reaching out to distant family members and friends. Other side provides social media platform to scammers, narcissism, vice, and extremism. The problem these four excellent on their own ideas share at the moment is how our personal information, all too often email addresses, passwords, and other sensitive to abuse information, is spread like wildfire. Aside for the Nigerian princes, another example on why this is problematic. Now that there are more natural-sounding AI voices, use cyber scammers these tools to fake people's family members or close friends, their voice, to send messages to those people, with the request to send money through an attached link. The voices can be highly convincing, demanding from people to be wary of a situation where normally trust is based. This abuse of personal information is odd given the right and importance to privacy and protection of personal information. The Universal Declaration to Human Rights from 1948, signed a few years after World War II by pretty much every country, is very clear on this. And as we have covered, means universal, always applicable. And yet, despite having that universal protective right, do we still deal with abusive practices towards our privacy? Now, nearly 80 years later. Here in the EU, do we have the General Data Protection Rights, established in 2018, to cover that privacy right digitally. And that is exactly my point. In 2018, nearly 30 years after the emergence of the World Wide Web, entire sub-excellent social media platforms have spread across our world within that time frame. Countless of other, far from excellent additions to our world. These way too lengthy time frames demonstrate how lethargic and sloppy our current governance systems are. The sheer amount of corruption, incompetence, and lack of systemic ability to truly respect excellent ideas, excellent into reality. From democracy and republic to autocracy, technocracy, etc. All of these governance systems demonstrate the sheer lack of systemic assurance related to excellent honesty and excellent competence. Had governance actually respected ideas and governance by principle, being able to guide them most honestly and competently towards excellent realization in society, then that means the UDHR would have been complemented with the GDPR already in the early 90s, rather than 2018. Across our world, same goes to the servicing functionalities of AI and social media to our human needs. AI slop and social media scamming would not have occurred. Then world peace and world prosperity would already be reality. Cyber warfare or any type of war in 2025, unimaginable. Our world and society would have already been excellent in the servicing of all our human needs in so many ways, had excellent ideas been principally respected in governance. How could it not when we have excellent ideas such as the Internet and World Wide Web, which allow us to present ourselves as human individuals, guide and be guided from expertise responsibly? As with all the other principles, this concerns our self-respect as well. All right, now, unto Principle 6, True Leadership. You know by now this distinction between humanity, society, and how society is there in service to our human needs. That is why we work, for our fellow man, our loved ones, and ourselves. The teamwork for the team. And as team, competent by expertise and honest by amount of team members, we best decide. And those excellent quality team decisions need to be realized with excellence as well. Because as mentioned at the last principle, May ideas on their own be excellent, but their realization into society may not be as straightforward excellent. This principle makes a key difference by principally addressing the excellent team leadership, the true leadership required for that excellent translation from paper to reality. Now, what is true leadership, you ask? True leadership respects humanity overall, as well as people's and each their individual humanity. Respects the fact how we are not merely workers or drones for society, but how we are always human, with all of us the same human needs, and how society is there to service us all in those human needs. Respects the importance of our own voice in the decisions which affect ourselves and our care-receiving loved ones. Respects expertise in and on its own, as well as the importance of expertise guiding governance towards excellence, and respects the importance of non-experts being tested indiscriminatory in governance, thus respecting excellent honesty and competence in governance. Respects the collective filtering and nurturing of ideas towards our world, and translates them most honestly and competently amongst us. Demonstrably responsible, respecting accountability. Within all that collective respect, has the true leader respect for him or herself? Thinks and acts from his own homos and sapiens, respects his or her own voice, and has respect for the team members' homos, sapiens, and voice he or she works with, in translation of collective decisions into societal actions, and picks team members based on honesty and competence, not loyalty or friend politics. Of course, a leader can propose ideas as well, and has naturally more resources at his or her disposal than most people do. At the same time, respects experts' feedback and collective decision-making of those ideas, and does not attempt to manipulate decision-making in favor of their proposed ideas. Reason is simple, again. If your ideas require manipulation, propaganda, then whatever you attempt to force is of low quality, cannot endure reason-grounded criticism, and goes therefore likely against the human needs of fellow man amongst us and ourselves. So, you got that? All right. Then it is time for the last principle in universal governance. One interconnected location. The first two principles concern the Latin homos, again for human, by principally empowering every individual human being in governance of our world, which affects his or her human needs, you included, and me, and our loved ones. The next four principles concerns the sapiens part in Homo sapiens, which, to remind you, stands for wise and knowledgeable. Of course, in order to make sure worldwide governance is infused with excellent wisdom and knowledge, and translated into society with excellence as well, thus making governance honest and competent. In other words, responsible and accurate. This last principle connects the principles related to Homo with principles of sapiens practically. And you may be thinking, now that is a difficult to answer question. Impossible even. Nothing is further from the truth. So we have covered the reasons for not direct democracy, geographical distance in between us, the physical limitations of constructively assembling by the millions in governance, limitations of education due to the two former, and to solve problems in governance in a timely manner. All right? We have technically covered already the education one, in principle that is. And well, we can keep beating around the bush here, but what is this? And what is this? Or this? The ICT right in front of you, where you come to understand my message across our world. They are digital devices on which we all are non-physically interconnected in communication and information sharing. ICT. And on that specific ICT, the internet, are we interconnected by 6.04 billion out of 8.142 billion of us, or roughly 75% out of us human beings, and counting, of all expertises amongst us. Housing, food, medicine, finance, economy, every human need, all interconnected. And not slowly either, like continental and intercontinental postal communication from, for example, the 18th century, or limited to paper-based communication. No, we can literally communicate with one another as if we are in the same room with each other, regardless of location in our world and the distance in between. Our world could literally expand our entire solar system, and communication would still be on a daily basis at the furthest neighboring planets. Communicate by the billions if necessary. Thus, the same goes for my message to you, my fellow man. And on that vast, worldwide, interconnected information and communication technology, do we excellent to connect the homos, the first two principles of UGT, with the sapiens, the following four principles, through one location. One interconnected location. Through the internet, with the entirety of society. Having one worldwide interconnected location through the internet, where humanity meets the governance, education, and ideation with our world and society in the nurturing of our human needs, and those whom receive our care. This digital location, through either a smartphone, PC, or laptop, solves practically the criticisms of direct democracy, distance in between, assembly limitations, education limitations, and timely, becoming a governance system which vastly exceeds any other governance system in terms of accuracy to all our human needs and reliability on maintenance of that accuracy. But where would that one interconnected location be society-wise? Here, above the rule of law, above the world constitution, above the four pillars. That is where humanity and its world and society meet. The same goes to peoples meeting nations, states, provinces, cities, towns, etc. You, over the parts of society which affect your and your care-receiving loved ones' human needs. That is where our self-presentation happens, responsibly with expert guidance and competence testing, where the ideas which make society are evaluated and realized through true leadership. That is where we rule as humanity, as human beings. And as all expertise hones in on that singular location, does the same principle therefore apply to everything related to that singular location as well? The entire community of human beings who are expert in organizing the flow of information sharing, and the community who are expert in communication, the ones who are expert in security, the ones in user interface, and all the others necessary to make that excellent idea excellent in reality.
But why one location?
For us to gather and decide together. Just as there is one United Nations with the General Assembly in New York for General Assembly, or one town hall/city hall where you live. Otherwise, you get parallel decision-making, which is chaotic. It is also more fiscally responsible, as multiple locations would require more establishment cost and more maintenance cost. We do not gain anything from having more than one interconnected location to rule as humanity from ourselves as human beings. We only lose.
Makes sense.
Yes, and for governance educational purposes and ideation purposes as well, by the way. And as you will come further to understand, for managing our own individual web of societal stakes, and to provide and receive universal education as well. All right, this was universal governance theory to you. Of course, in general, fundamental, universal terms. The details will come when we gather the relevant, excellent, honest, and competent expertise to translate Purocracy into reality. Make sure to share my message with your network. Thank you for watching. See you at message 4, Purocracy.